Let me start by asking you something important. Have you ever noticed how people change when they realize they might lose you? Not when they're comfortable, not when they feel secure, but when the ground beneath them starts to shake. Because here's a powerful truth: human beings don't move when life is easy. They move when something they value is at risk. And right now, this person feels that risk deeply. They sense distance. They feel the shift. And whether they admit it or not, something inside them is saying, I can't afford to lose this. When someone feels they are losing you, fear becomes a powerful motivator that awakens action. And this is one of the most misunderstood dynamics in human behavior. Fear, when triggered by the possibility of loss, has a way of cutting through comfort, routine, and complacency faster than almost anything else. When everything feels secure, people often operate on autopilot. They assume tomorrow will look like today. They assume you'll still be there, still available, still patient, still understanding. But the moment that assumption starts to crack, something shifts internally. The mind becomes alert. The heart becomes restless. Attention sharpens. Suddenly, what was once ignored becomes impossible to overlook. This fear is not always negative. In fact, it can be incredibly revealing. It forces a person to confront questions they've been avoiding for a long time. Questions like, what does this connection actually mean to me? What will my life feel like without this person? What did I fail to appreciate when I had the chance? These questions create emotional pressure, and pressure creates movement. That movement is what often shows up as unexpected behavior, sudden effort, emotional honesty, vulnerability, or actions you never thought they were capable of. From a psychological perspective, the brain is wired to avoid loss more strongly than it is wired to pursue gain. Losing something valuable feels more painful than gaining something new feels pleasurable. So when you begin to emotionally step back, set boundaries, or grow into your own strength, the person who feels you slipping away experiences that pain in advance. Their nervous system reacts. Their priorities rearrange. What once felt optional now feels urgent. This is why growth in one person often triggers change in another. Not because you demanded it, but because your energy shifted. You stopped overgiving. You stopped shrinking. You stopped proving. And in doing so, you introduced uncertainty where there once was certainty. That uncertainty acts like a mirror. It reflects back what they truly feel and how much they are willing to do to preserve what matters to them. However, it's important to understand that fear-driven action is only the beginning, not the destination. Fear can spark movement, but awareness sustains it. The real lesson here is not about what they do next. It's about what you learn next. You learn how people respond when access to you is no longer guaranteed. You learn whether their actions come from genuine realization or temporary panic. And most importantly, you learn the power of your own presence. When someone fears losing you, it means your value has been registered. And that awareness, once awakened, can never fully be undone. When someone feels they are losing you, fear becomes a powerful motivator that awakens action. This is not ordinary fear. It is the fear of regret, the fear of realizing too late that something meaningful was taken for granted. Human beings are wired to protect what they value, but comfort dulls awareness. When everything feels secure, effort fades. But the moment uncertainty appears, the mind shifts. Suddenly, memories replay. Moments are re-evaluated. Emotions that were once muted rise to the surface. This fear doesn't come from weakness. It comes from attachment and recognition. The possibility of losing you forces this person to confront a reality they avoided before. Your presence was not automatic and your absence would leave a void. That realization activates urgency. They begin to act not because they planned to, but because staying still now feels more painful than change. This is why behavior can shift so quickly. Fear removes procrastination. It strips away excuses and pushes people to do what they should have done all along. But fear alone is not enough to sustain growth. It is simply the spark that starts the fire. Loss creates clarity. People suddenly realize the value of what they once took for granted. Value is often invisible when it is constant. Like air, it is only noticed when it's hard to breathe. When you were always there, your impact blended into routine. But distance sharpens perception. Silence speaks louder than words. Your absence becomes a mirror, reflecting everything they ignored, overlooked, or delayed appreciating. Clarity is powerful because it cuts through illusion. In that clarity, they see your emotional support, your consistency, your presence, and the stability you brought into their life. They also see their own choices more honestly. This is why unexpected actions often follow messages, apologies, efforts, promises, or sudden vulnerability. These actions are attempts to reclaim what clarity has revealed as valuable. However, true clarity is not proven by dramatic moments, but by sustained alignment. When someone truly understands your value, they don't just react, they adjust. They don't just promise, they practice. And this is where your growth matters most. You don't need to demand recognition. Your self-respect creates it. By continuing to honor your boundaries and your worth, you allow clarity to either mature into real change or fade into truth. Either outcome serves you, because clarity born from loss is not meant to trap you. It is meant to show you who is capable of meeting you where you are now. When someone feels they're losing you, fear becomes a powerful catalyst that shakes them out of emotional sleep. Human beings are wired to protect what they value, but comfort dulls appreciation. The moment distance appears, the nervous system reacts. The heart speeds up. The mind starts replaying memories, moments, and missed opportunities. This is when urgency is born. Not because they suddenly became a different person, but because the possibility of loss forces awareness. What was once familiar now feels fragile. What was once assumed now feels precious. This fear doesn't come from weakness. It comes from attachment, from realizing that something meaningful may slip away forever. And that realization often triggers actions that surprise you, because pressure reveals priorities faster than words ever could. Loss also creates clarity in a way nothing else can. When people think they have time, they delay growth. When they think you'll always be there, they postpone effort. But when they feel you pulling back, when your energy changes, when your presence is no longer guaranteed, their mind begins to focus sharply. Suddenly, they remember what you brought into their life. The support, the warmth, the stability, the inspiration. In that clarity, excuses disappear. The noise fades. And what remains is truth. This is why people often act differently when they fear losing someone, not because they were incapable before, but because they were unconscious. Awareness hurts, but it also educates. It teaches people what really matters. And it teaches you something even more important: how much your absence speaks compared to your presence. Unexpected actions are not accidents, they are emotional responses to internal awakening. When comfort ends, authenticity begins. People reveal who they are when they are challenged, not when they are relaxed. That's why moments like this are so powerful for you. You need to force outcomes. You need to chase explanations. Your role is to stay steady in your self-respect and observe. Consistency, not intensity, tells the real story. Anyone can act boldly once, but only someone who has truly learned will act differently over time. And here's the deeper lesson. Your growth is not responsible for saving others, but it is powerful enough to invite transformation. If they rise, it's because they chose awareness. If they don't, it's because your strength exposed the truth. Either way, you step forward stronger, clearer, and more aligned with who you are becoming. When someone feels they are losing you, something deep inside them wakes up. Fear of loss sharpens awareness in a way comfort never can. What they once overlooked suddenly becomes valuable. Your presence, your energy, your absence, it all becomes louder. This isn't weakness, it's human wiring. The mind is designed to protect what it believes is essential. And the moment you are no longer guaranteed, their emotions begin pushing them toward action. This is why distance can sometimes speak more powerfully than words ever could. Loss also brings clarity, and clarity changes behavior. When everything feels secure, people operate on habit. They assume tomorrow will look like today. But the moment that assumption breaks, priorities reorder themselves. Effort increases. Attention sharpens. What once felt optional now feels urgent. This is why people often realize the true value of a connection only when it's at risk. Not because they didn't care before, but because certainty made them unconscious. Awareness returns when comfort disappears. That urgency often leads to unexpected behavior. They may say things they never said before. They may show up in ways you didn't think they were capable of. This doesn't always mean manipulation. It often means revelation. Pressure reveals character. When someone is afraid of losing you, their true intentions come to the surface. Some rise with sincerity and growth. Others react with anxiety or control. Either way, you learn the truth faster than you ever could through conversation alone. Your growth is the silent trigger behind all of this. When you stop shrinking, stop chasing, and start honoring your own standards, you change the emotional dynamic. You don't demand respect, you demonstrate self-respect. That shift forces people to decide who they will be in your presence. And here's the most important lesson. You don't need to force an outcome. Stay steady. Stay aligned. Let consistency, not promises, show you what's real. If they step up, let it be because they chose growth, not because they feared abandonment for a moment. If they don't, understand that you didn't lose them, you uncovered the truth. Either outcome strengthens you, because the moment you stop being afraid of losing others, you start gaining yourself. And that is the kind of power that changes every relationship in your life. When someone feels they are losing you, their emotional system shifts from comfort to urgency. This urgency is not random. It is the mind's natural response to perceived loss. People often take stability for granted until it feels threatened. At that moment, awareness sharpens. They begin replaying memories, reevaluating past behavior, and recognizing the value they overlooked. This is why sudden effort, attention, or emotional openness may appear. It is not magic. It is the brain realizing that what once felt permanent is now uncertain, and uncertainty demands action. Loss has a unique ability to reveal truth. When everything is stable, intentions stay hidden behind routine. But when distance appears, real priorities surface. A person who fears losing you is forced to confront an uncomfortable question. What does this connection truly mean to me? Their response, whether growth or avoidance, becomes an honest reflection of their emotional maturity. This moment is educational because it teaches you that words spoken in comfort matter far less than actions taken under pressure. Unexpected behavior often comes from emotional awakening rather than strategy. When someone senses you pulling back, improving yourself, or no longer over-investing, it disrupts their internal balance. This disruption can trigger surprising actions, confessions, effort, vulnerability, or sudden presence. However, understanding this helps you stay grounded. Emotional spikes can be temporary. Real change is not measured by intensity but by repetition over time. Observing patterns instead of promises allows you to stay empowered rather than emotionally reactive. Your growth plays a larger role than you may realize. When you begin honoring your worth, setting boundaries, and choosing self-respect, you change the dynamic without forcing anything. This shift can be confronting for others. Some rise to meet the new standard, others feel exposed by it. Education comes from recognizing that you are not responsible for how someone reacts to your growth. Your evolution simply reflects truth back to them, and truth often demands a response. The most important lesson is that clarity benefits you regardless of the outcome. If they step up consistently, you gain confirmation. If they fade or revert, you gain freedom from illusion. Either way, you are no longer guessing. When someone feels they are losing you, their actions become a mirror, and that mirror shows you exactly where you stand. Staying calm, observant, and rooted in your values ensures that no matter what they do next, you remain aligned with your own strength and direction. When someone feels they are losing you, fear becomes a powerful internal trigger that awakens action. Fear of loss activates the human survival system, pushing people out of emotional comfort zones. What once felt optional suddenly feels essential. This is why silence, distance, or emotional independence often creates movement where words never could. The mind begins replaying memories, reevaluating priorities, and questioning past behavior. In that moment, the person is no longer reacting to you. They are reacting to the possibility of emptiness without you. Fear sharpens focus, and focus drives action. Loss creates clarity in a way comfort never will. When someone believes they have time, they delay growth. When they believe time is running out, they see the truth clearly. They start recognizing your value, your presence, and the emotional safety you provided. This clarity doesn't come from manipulation. It comes from contrast. Only when something feels distant do people understand what it truly meant to them. Losing access to you forces them to confront what they ignored, minimized, or assumed would always be there. Emotional urgency often leads to unexpected behavior because urgency breaks routine. People who once hesitated may suddenly act boldly. People who stayed silent, may speak up. People who avoided commitment may take emotional risks. These actions feel surprising because they come from pressure, not planning. Urgency compresses decision-making and removes hesitation. This is why the behavior may seem intense or out of character. It's driven by the instinct to protect something that feels endangered. True intentions surface when comfort is replaced by the possibility of separation. Comfort allows people to hide behind habits, excuses, and half-efforts. But when separation feels real, masks fall. Some people rise with sincerity, humility, and growth. Others reveal control, fear, or inconsistency. This moment is educational because it shows you who they are when things are no longer guaranteed. Pressure doesn't create character, it exposes it. Your personal growth and self-respect can trigger transformation in others without you saying a single word. When you stop over-explaining, stop chasing validation, and start standing firmly in your worth, it sends a powerful signal. That signal says you are not dependent, you are choosing. This shift can be deeply unsettling for someone who benefited from your availability. Your growth becomes the mirror that forces them to reflect on their own stagnation or potential. What happens next is not about control. It is about awakened awareness. Unexpected actions should be observed, not immediately trusted or dismissed. Real change reveals itself through consistency, not intensity. Awareness leads to sustained effort, emotional responsibility, and aligned behavior over time. Whether they evolve or fall away, the outcome serves you. Because when you stay grounded in your value, you don't lose people, you gain truth.